Hey, what's going on, guys? It's DefC, and right now you're watching a little bit of 2v2 action on Game Battles Doubles. The map is Plaza, the game type is Hardpoint. We're going to hop right into this and get on board with myself as I can see what I can do against this other team. The other team's name was AAA Baseball, and fun fact, they actually disbanded their team as soon as this best-of-3 series ended. I don't know if that was coincidental or if they really just got disgruntled and kind of rattled when we beat them. Spoiler alert, we win. It's very close, though. I really wish I didn't spoil that, but otherwise, why would I be posting this? Although I have been posting every round, not every round, but every series of game battles that we've been doing. Actually, that's not entirely true. There was one series that I totally forgot to record. But nonetheless, spoiler alert, we're doing pretty well, and so you're going to see a lot of wins. But this is a really close match. Not even just this round, this map, but all three of the games were pretty close, except maybe not the second one so much. Although, if you watch the ending of the second one, it's huge, and anybody who is watching the video will understand that that game could have turned around entirely, but I'm not entirely sure why it didn't, but we'll get more into that when that game comes around, and you guys can watch that and really know what I'm talking about. I'll even bring it up for you guys if you don't remember. Anyways, guys, the one thing that I wanted to speak about, although I think there's a second thing if I have time, but I really won't push that if I don't have the time to talk about it, is the fact that I want to get into live streaming. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I feel like it'd be a much more natural state for me, and I don't necessarily mean live commentaries uploaded to YouTube, but I'm talking about the very famous, the very well-known Twitch TV. It used to be Justin TV. And as many of you may know, as a lot of people go on there and live stream, they just kind of play the game. Sometimes they listen to music in the background. Sometimes they, throw an online tournament. Sometimes they do speed run charity runs and earn $180,000 for whatever charity they want to do, which is incredible, by the way. I'm really glad that the community has gone out and helped out that much to that extent. It's pretty incredible. I don't know the final number. I saw a benchmark that was, I think, $180,000 donated when these guys were doing speed runs of like Doom and stuff like that, older games, and it was really incredible that they were able to get together and do that. I kind of checked that out and watched that for a little bit. But I want to get into live streaming because I want to get that atmospherical, playing with friends feel. And of course, for this, it's very, like on my channel here, it's a little bit of competitive spin. Obviously, I'm not the best competitive player, and I don't even have a lot of competitive experience as compared to some of these other, like, pro MLG players or EGL or UMG or any of these other professional players or from these tournaments who are competing with their teams and have much better competitive Call of Duty to bring you guys. But that's what I want to be involved in, and so that's what I am aiming to do, and so that's what I'm bringing you guys. Although very every now and again I'll bring you kind of whatever I'm playing, whatever kind of game types. But sometimes, a lot of times actually, is I don't play Call of Duty all day, every day. A lot of times I'll play, I'll play The Sims for a couple hours, or I'll play Minecraft for a day, or, I'll go back and play, Dead Space, which I actually haven't played Dead Space 3 yet, and it's been sitting on my PC for a couple months now, and I really haven't touched it because I can't log into my EA account, which is really unsettling. I don't know why they won't just let me play the game, but I will have to find that information out because I do want to play Dead Space 3. In fact, I wanted to live stream Dead Space 3. That was one of the things that I wanted to do for because Dead Space, it's not necessarily an extremely scary game, but if you guys wrap your mind around it, you will be starting to play the game, and you'll be hesitant about going around corners, and not that it's, and that's is a whole other topic I could probably bring up, but I'll bring it very quickly, is that I consider, let's say you're watching a horror movie, and then suddenly something pops out of a window where a sound is very loud, and you jump. I don't consider that being scared. I consider that being a reaction to what just happened. Being scared is when the movie ends and you're afraid to sleep at night. That's having a good experience with a horror movie. That's being scared of the horror movie. Not when you have a loud noise and a sudden burst of excitement in the movie, which causes you to react. I don't think that's called being a scary movie. I think that's called a very, very well job at creating an environment where they don't expect something to happen and then you catch them off guard. But that's a whole nother thing that I could probably be talking about for quite a while. So I won't get too much into that, but I do want to distinguish that games that create, or not games, but mediums that create a scary, lasting effect is what I really consider horror. Something that creates a scaring effect afterwards where you're scared to do something, you're scared to walk down a long, dark hallway, or you're scared to look around a corner because you're afraid something's going to be there. That is fear. That is being scared. Being scared is not reacting to a loud noise that they throw into your ear because that's human reaction. We're made to jump at things like that because that's human nature. It's instinct. It's, you gotta protect yourselves. And so that's that. So I want to play Dead Space 3 because it's not, you can be very scary at some points. Like, remember when I was playing Dead Space 1 one time, and It was like 3 a.m. and I was literally afraid to walk around corners because of how jumpy it was. And so, I mean, I wouldn't have trouble sleeping at night, but like I'd be afraid to like be jumped because I knew was happened quite a bit actually, and it wasn't necessarily a scary game, but my mindset was very, very into it, and so I got very into the game. And the audio was really killer for me. I think that's really what did it, was the audio. The audio was phenomenal in that game, and I don't expect the audio to be any less in the future games, and so I'm really looking forward to Dead Space 3. Although I heard that Dead Space 3 brought back a lot of horror to the game, but it also felt very non-horror-ish in the sense that like it felt very, very, not easier, but I don't know. I read that it was easier, but I don't think games like that are meant to be particularly hard. I mean, there are harder settings so that your ammo limitations and your health are very low, and so it's very survival based instead of, you know, run and gun. And so it's just a very good experience, and I do want to play that, and that's one of the ones that I wanted to do because I wanted to have like that live cam to capture any kind of scaring effects or, you know, jumpy moments, which could always be fun to watch. I think everyone has a little bit of fun watching their friends and, you know, internet personalities jump at a scary moment, because it kind of shows that we're all kind of still human, even though some of us may seem a little superhuman at some points in time. So I think that's really fun to watch sometimes. I mean, like, I'm not talking about PewDiePie. I think his voice is kind of annoying, which is kind of upsetting because he's a really smart guy, although I just can't wrap my head around the fact that he still sounds really annoying when he does his you know, live gameplays. Although as a person, I've seen him on other people's streams, and he seems like a normal guy. It's just that when he's doing his own live streams, he gets kind of really silly, and that's just not the content that I want to watch. But don't let me get too much into that. I mean, I think he's a fine guy. I think he's pretty entertaining. He's not my cup of tea, which is, you know, totally okay. And so yeah, I do want to live stream at some point. I do want to be involved in a charity event, but I'm going to need an audience for that. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of worried about, is not having anybody watch, because I was doing a live stream the other day. Although, I mean, in my defense, I was doing Red Orchestra 2 Rising Storm with my cousin, and there was only 3 other people streaming it, and there was like 20 people watching those other 3 streams collectively. And so it's really a niche kind of game. It leans more towards the realism of World War II, and my cousin is amazing at it. So I actually didn't play a lot on the stream. We were just really testing the software and getting the settings down so that later on we would be better suited to be able to do stuff, just getting kind of familiar with the software and solve some audio and video problems. But the webcam that I have, it's not, you know, phenomenal. It's not top of the line right now, state of the art. But it gets the job done, especially when you have to shrink the video and put it in a corner. The resolution looks fine and stuff like that, unless you're blowing up the screen, in which case, you know, I think everything's going to lose a little bit of quality at that point. But I don't think anybody really does that often, is when you blow up the screen and stuff like that, although some may argue that they do, but that's, you know, I would say most people don't. And so one of the things that we had a problem with was lighting. We had a light behind us, which is the only light in the room. It's got kind of a glass, stained glass kind of effect that's like a half bowl around the light bulb, and so it blocks a lot of the light, but it's also it's also located behind where the webcam would be, behind where we're sitting, and so it creates a very silhouetted effect because the low light sensor on the camera is obviously not that great, and so it does not recognize the difference between what it's focusing on and what's foreground and what's background. And so the exposure levels, it's like trying to film something next to an open window with daylight, and you're trying to do it with like really, really low lighting. It's obviously going to pick up the sensor. It's very going to pick up the exposure levels for the window if you have an automatic, you know, changing settings for your camera, and you're not going to be able to manually set that exposure levels for the foreground and not the background. And so it's very underexposed foreground and a very exposed background for the light, although it creates a very much of a like a vignette around the light, and then everything else is just dark, which is very common in lower end cameras. And this is just a webcam, so I'm really not expecting a whole lot out of that. But anyways, my point is that we're going to have to figure out a different lighting scenario for the room. We're probably going to have to get a second light in there, and so it's more in front of us or even to the side of us, but not too crazy, because obviously you don't want like half face shadows over here. And then as long with for audio, the computer that we're going to use is extremely powerful, and we have an external fan keeping the area that it is located and ventilated, because it is inside of an area that has wooden panels on the sides of it. It's probably like 6 or 8 inches away from it, so it's not like really cramped, but we do like to keep some ventilation in there to keep things from overheating. It's a very powerful computer, like I said, and we've had overheating problems before, but I believe that the overheating sensor, or the heat sensor, was located too close to something, and so it was picking up more heat than it should have been on the sensor, and so it was indicating that the computer was much hotter than it actually was. And by that I mean the computer was actually as hot as it was saying, but it wasn't dangerous to the computer because it was closer to what it was supposed to be. But it doesn't matter. We keep it ventilated. We're gonna have to figure something out like that. But my problem was that the microphones, if I was to use this microphone, this is a very sensitive condenser microphone, and so it would pick up the fan, and it would be very annoying to listen to in the background. Although it may not be as bad as I'm making it seem, so we'll have to test that out. Although I do know that I turn off all the fans and ACs around my perimeter, and so that you guys don't hear anything and any of that. And so if you do have a fan, it's actually just the built-in fan of my computer right now. And see if you do hear the fan, that's how sensitive this microphone is. It's pretty sensitive. And so we will have to use some kind of dynamic microphone, or at least a condenser microphone that's not as sensitive, because we do have to run the external fan, and a lot of times we have to run the AC if we're in there for an extended period of time, because otherwise the room gets really hot. And so for our pleasure needs, we do have to run the AC. And then microphone covered, webcam covered, live stream covered. That's what I want to talk about to you guys. That will be happening relatively shortly in the future. My cousin has these weird work schedules that it's really not planned all the time, because he works at an ice cream store, and so they do weekly scheduling, and so he doesn't necessarily know. So it may not be consistent, although I do want to become as consistent with the live streaming, or not necessarily consistent, but just I want to do it more often and got to get familiar with that and have fun with that, because I think we can have a lot of fun. We've been doing a lot of Minecraft and a lot of random other games, because we own probably like a bajillion games on the PC because of Steam sales. And so we want to get through that, and we want to have a lot of fun live streaming, but we got to get the setup down. We got to get that working. But thanks for listening, guys. This is Game 1. It was a tough loss. It was close. It came down to that last gunfight, but Game 2 and Game 3 will be more fun to watch, I promise, especially Game 3. Incredible ending. Absolutely incredible. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening, and as always, have a nice day.